carry on logging on, which I can see they are doing. And I just want to use that time really to welcome everybody. Thanks for tuning in this morning. Tony, I've dressed in my Azuri blue. Is that an Armani suit you're wearing?
I wish. Ryan, I spent a blissful 6 months in Milan. And what I did notice was everyone dressed really, really well and smartly. So I thought what I better do is I better up my game for this doing business in Italy webinar. It's the 7th part of the series, Ryan. So I didn't think we'd make it past the second one, but we're here. It's the 7th part.
Really?
Italy is one of my absolute favorite footballing nations. It's sort of second to England, obviously. But, the Italian football over the years has been an absolute joy to us. I sort of hark back to the days of, I'm probably older than most of our audience, but your Paolo Rossi's, your Marco Tardelli's, your Dino Zoffs, those people. I sort of hark back to that sort of golden era. And I absolutely love Italian football. In fact, my first Champions League experience was in the San Siro, AC Milan v Barcelona. What a game to go to, 4-3, Rivaldo scoring a hat-trick, unheard of, 4 goals going in at the San Siro against Milan, unheard of. So I'm really looking forward to this part 7. It could be a cracker.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. For us based in England, I know we've got people tuning in from all over the world this morning, but certainly I think for, people of my generation and that older generation like yourself, Tony, there is a linkage to Italian football. I remember growing up watching Italian football on Channel 4 on a Sunday morning. It was absolutely fantastic. Yet, what we have not seen is huge amounts of British players over in Italy over the years. We've seen some, lots of interactions between the two nations. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating to learn about doing business in Italy today. And as always, we have got an excellent lineup for you, which I will just share very briefly now. I'm going to introduce him formally in a second. We're joined by Andrea Bozza from Senior Counsel from Withers Worldwide. We had a prep session earlier in the week with Andrea, absolutely unbelievably detailed and knowledge about operating in Italy. We're hopefully going to be joined a little bit later as well by Pier Francesco Visci from...
Ryan, can I just stop you there? You've just gone into perfect Italian there, haven't you, with that pronunciation?
It's this jumper.
I didn't know you had it in you. I didn't really know you had it in you.
From AC Spezia, who have done absolutely unbelievable this season. If you've been following Italian football, for them to be up in Serie A is absolutely phenomenal, and for them to have not only survived but done so quite easily, a huge achievement. Of course, we'll have some time at the end of the session for any questions that you've got as well. But before we introduce Andrea, we're joined again by Roberto Branco Martins from the European Football Agents Association. Roberto, great to see you again. How have things been over the last month since we saw you last?
Hi, Ryan. Hi, Tony. Hi, all. Andrea, obviously, thank you very much for taking up the gloves to represent Italy in these sessions. I feel like I have to congratulate him also with a win with the Eurovision. Obviously, Ryan and Tony are not very enthusiastic about it. I can understand. But that's another thing that binds us, the international sports and entertainment industry. Now, on a serious note, thank you very much for being here, guys, again. Well, last months have been quite hectic. We have informed you from AFA perspective that we have had some struggles with FIFA. We are currently joining all members in order to prepare a larger event where we will invite FIFA also for a public discussion, but that's in the pipeline. I will inform you most probably later. I think we have another doing business in session coming up relatively soon, so I think I will have more information about that soon. So I'll keep it on my sleeve for now. What we have seen in the meantime are some very interesting developments that I believe are worthwhile mentioning at the moment, because I think it also could give Andrea some input for his talk. And I think it's relevant to mention, because the viewers and the people who will see this later in the recording will for sure be affected by this, and it deals with the different tax regulations in all the countries. If we look at the UK, for example, we have seen last month that HMRC came up with relatively clear guidelines on how to structure your business, basically as an agent vis-a-vis a club that you work for and a player that you work for, in order to create some clarity in the invoicing and the tax burden of the invoice that you have been sent, in the sense that normally there would be a 50-50 split if there will be a dual representation in England from the agent side. But I understand now that HMRC is looking very critically towards the services that have been provided by the agents. The same goes in the Netherlands, and we have seen a lot of issues in relation to tax situation and invoices sent by agents in Spain and in Germany. So I wonder how the situation is in Italy. And also, I wonder for the next step in the future, if this is something that can be harmonized in whatever way, or if tax regulations will remain a topic that cannot reach an international harmonization, because it's based on a national state system. So that's something that we've been quite busy on, to try to create some light in the darkness of all the tax regulations. And I wonder how Andrea looks at it. I'm quite sure he can assist us with his views. And in the meantime, the transfer window is opening up again. So I believe that we will see at least the start of a new season with the majority of European nations welcoming the fans again. Obviously, we've seen fans yesterday at memorable Europa League match. European Championships are at the front door. So it's going to be quite fascinating. So I think we're in a very busy period at the moment. It feels as if everyone is starting to prepare for the window. At the same time, we see these big events coming up. COVID still around the corner to maybe mess up everything again if we're not cautious. So quite a fascinating time. And I believe a good time to learn how to be able to do very good business in one of the biggest markets in Europe. So I'm very happy for that. I do have to say also, again, Ryan, Tony, I have to apologize. I'm on my phone. My laptop just broke down, so I will have to do some work on my phone. So you will have to excuse me. I will leave. I have someone from our organization that is present, so I will be available for a talk if necessary, and I will log in before the end of the session again to have the wrap up.
Thanks, Roberto. To be honest, after your comment about the Eurovision, I'm glad you're going. To be honest.
If I were you, Ryan and Tony, you're so talented on screen. Maybe you should figure out if you know how to sing, because you can do better than 0 points.
Yeah. The worst thing about the Eurovision is that we pay to come last. It's taxpayers' money you have to pay to even join that competition. So
I didn't even want to mention that, but okay.
Thanks, Roberto.
And please, Roberto, don't leave before me saying big thank you for thinking of me. You are a man of risk, and you took the risk of having me on board this morning. And in fact, the other comment I have to say is great technical issues think alike, because my laptop decided to break earlier this morning, just 2 minutes before joining. So I switched to competition, and Viva Apple, I must say. I'm happily on my private device and look forward to this webinar. So thank you again, Roberto. It's a big pleasure to do anything with you. from our fights at the, at the FIFA level to discussions on, single jurisdiction in each jurisdiction. So again, thank you. And I shall thank, of course, Ryan and Tony separately when we start.
Thanks,
Great.
Roberto. Excellent. Well, let's move on. A little bit of housekeeping before I introduce Andrea formally. If you've got any general comments or you would like to share your contact details, your LinkedIn address, your Twitter address, anything like that, a bit of profile about who you are, feel free to do that on the chat section of the webinar. Of course, we're inviting your questions from the very, very start. If you do have any questions, and there's always a load of questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. I can see we're also being joined now by Pier Francesco. I'll just say good morning, and we'll be with you a little bit later on because I'm going to formally introduce now Andrea. Andrea, thank you for being with us this morning. As I alluded to just a few minutes ago, we had a great session earlier on in the week. Italian football, as I said earlier, has such a mystique here in the UK, and I'm absolutely fascinated to hear what you're going to talk about. So I know you've got some slides, but with the technical issues, do you want me to show those slides, or have you
apparently we managed to solve also that issues. We complete the picture of Italians, making or having troubles, but also being able to solve them.
Oh, fantastic.
So let me if I can make a start again, a big thank you now to the organization of Football Transfer Forum and you and Tony, with whom I had a lovely pre-webinar meeting a few days ago. We discussed issues and the points that we want to touch upon today. I think it's well, whatever you said is of course I shall agree. Italy still represents, other than the lovely country, an important market. So I think it makes a lot of sense to try and understand best ways to do business in our country. Also due to the fact that agents regulations and the agent market in itself is quite complex, and you need a good understanding of the rules and a good understanding also of how clubs see this word, which of course triggered the idea of inviting a great professional like Pier Francesco, who doesn't need any particular presentation, especially from me. I'm sure you'll do a much better work later on. So if you agree, I shall make a start with the slides. Let's see if I can share properly.
Brilliant.
All right. Thanks God. Okay, we're doing business in Italy. I just thought to deliver a first couple of slides on the Italian ecosystem in general. Why Italy? Well, nothing comparable to England. So leaving aside England due to obvious economic reasons, primarily laying with the great broadcasting deal you guys have for the next 3 years. I think Italy is pretty much in line with the other top 3, top 4 leagues in the European Union and in Europe in general. We have our reputation is for our fantastic fan base, which at some point was large enough also at international level. And I referred, I mean, my thoughts I mean, I refer also to Asia, North America. Now, of course, that fan base is losing some relevance, and we are losing a little bit competition vis-a-vis English and Spanish or German top clubs, and Paris Saint-Germain, I would say, in France. But still, we still do have a relevant fans base. On the revenues, of course, we will see in a few moments. Italian Serie A still gather, let's say, a good stream of revenues, primarily connected with broadcasting revenues, whilst, the classic match days and commercial revenues in Italy are of a lesser extent compared to, again, England and other top 4 or big 5 leagues. It's an industrial sector which gives a lot of work to a lot of people. Agents, professionals, of course, athletes, coaches, brands. The movement around the sport industry and football in particular is still very important in our country. And of course, the impact of the current pandemic has been massive. Just to give you an idea, 2019 revenues of around 2.5 billion, again, ranging from broadcasting right deal to match days and sponsorship and commercial. Now it's calculated, or it's estimated that the 2020 COVID-19 impact reached the figure of 800 million less. Now, how to get over it? We were hoping for a big new broadcasting deal of the likes of, the English landscape. The reality is that we were very close to a private equity deal, which would have injected a fantastic and a really, turning point for our Serie A, with the entry of, private equity players that would have, in a nutshell, anticipated a lot of money to our clubs. But all the Super League project, in essence, with the participation of our top 3 clubs, had, a negative impact on that project, and the project at the moment has been abandoned. So we have a new deal with DAZN for the next 3 seasons. It's not the best deal, and it's not yet the complete picture, because we still have some packages to be assigned and the international broadcasting deal to be completed. So we hope, in a few words, and so to say, we're still hoping for Serie A to get more revenues from broadcasting deals. Why Italy is still attractive, and why should an agent tell his player, well, it's a good place to go. I mean, don't want to spend too much time on the so-called timeless Italian flavor, la dolce vita, whatever you want to, however you want to call it. It's a lovely place to be, indeed. Good conditions for, you know, wealthy people such as Serie A players. A lot of things to do, and you know, but other than this, on Roberto was touching upon the tax sort of point from a slightly different angle. This is a country experiencing the same input of the Spanish league at the beginning of between 2000 and 2010. So a lot of incentives for foreign players to come, and foreign coaches and foreign managers in general to come and work in our country. We have two regimes that are primarily applicable, or in theory applicable. One is the so-called flat tax for, you know, individuals taking residence in Italy and having Italy as, you know, the main tax jurisdiction for their tax returns. So they declare their global revenues in Italy, and they become subject to a regime whereby you pay 100,000 euro flat tax. And speculations are, you know, quite in the public knowledge are that, you know, top players such as Cristiano Ronaldo decided at some point to come to Italy just because of that, and they are due to stay because of that. And then the so-called decreto crescita, so an repatriation rebate regime, whereby, you know, players and individuals, employees in essence, coming to Italy, taking residence in Italy, you know, the employer would pay almost, you know, half of income taxes on those employees compared to the normal sort of standard regime, which makes more convenient, you know, for comparable situation, big player at the domestic level, big player in England, France, or anywhere in the world. It makes it more convenient for an employer, i.e. a club, to employ and hire a foreign player or a foreign coach. And then apologies, guys, the Brexit impact.
Which Brexit was going to come up.
I'm not seeing such a huge impact, having, you know, England again monopolized European competition. Again, I shall join Roberto in his you know, feelings about, you know, and we were making jokes the other day on, you know, what the outcome would be of the Europa League final. I mean, being married to a Spanish lady, I shall be happy today. But you know, Brexit impact. What Brexit impact is, in fact, is my guessing is that scouting of young talent is becoming, Brexit makes it more difficult, and the rules about, you know, work permit in England makes it more difficult. So these combined to the tax incentives that I've just described might have further, you know, impact in favor of talent joining our league. Intermediaries in Italy. Do we use intermediaries? Yes, a lot. The trend is that it's more frequent for engaging clubs to making use of intermediaries, which raised the question of what the impact will be when the new rules at FIFA level will kick in, and where it will become apparent that and quite obvious that it will be more convenient to be associated with the releasing club, because it will be only the releasing club. It will be only the releasing club be able to pay agents based on transfer price rather than salary. So my guess is that these sort of statistics are they are going to be overruled by the new rules at FIFA level, which will necessarily need to be implemented in each jurisdiction. The amount of commissions is high, and compared to other member association, and as you can see, we have the second highest share among all the members association. So the easy answer is we do use intermediaries, and intermediaries are.
Could I just interrupt there, Andrea?
Sure.
So you were saying that the releasing, if agents are looking forward and seeing FIFA, putting caps on agents' fees and maybe less of a, I think it was a 3% and 10% for transfer fees. You were sort of thinking there'll be a shift towards doing more deals where agents can be involved with the releasing club and the transfer fee and making a commission on that. Is that what you're sort of thinking?
I'm saying yes, indeed.
Yeah.
The short answer, especially for the audience, is that you'll need to have real control on the player to be transferred.
Yes. Yeah.
So you'll be the role of pure intermediary is going to be challenged, I think.
Right.
By the new system.
Yeah, interesting.
And as a result of the rules on how the commission will be calculated, I would expect more agents, true agents, genuine agents, people providing services to clients rather than brokers, if I may simplify.
Yeah.
I see and I expect the trend of agents working more closely with releasing clubs.
Yeah, great. That's interesting. Yeah, interesting.
That is a global trend, which becomes, of course, relevant in a country having a different, as you can see, pattern at the moment.
Yeah.
But basically, this pattern shows that at present, it almost makes more sense to be a broker in Italy, because you actually generate the deal, you find the new opportunity, and it's easier or more frequent to get paid by the club investing on the transfer, the engaging club.
Great, yeah, and
so that's what I wanted to say, and thank you for asking for more clarification.
And on the commission side of things, Andrea, what's the sort of average level, not on a transfer fee where a commission, we talk about releasing clubs, but on a what's the general level?
5% on gross salary.
5%, about 5. Oh, okay.
That is the general trend. So 10% of net salary. That is the general trend. There are examples of course, that it will always revolve around the question of your leverage and your bargaining power with the club or the agent you are negotiating with / against. Depends on case by case, let's say. So that's the little bit the background figures characterizing our market. And now I wanted to get into and to navigate you through the main points and the takeaway points for foreign agents in relation to our regime. The Italian system is often regarded as a jungle. And that is because at some point, and as pioneers of the incoming FIFA reform, we have decided to do a shrimp move, going back to a sort of license system based on proper qualification of agents.
Wow, that's great. That's great, yeah.
And we did that by way of national legislation rather than sport regulation, which is being a lawyer, I must tell you, it's a huge point, and it's a huge difference. So here, if you have to if there are French agents logged in today, they're of course aware that in France there is a sort of agents law for the whole country, which also obviously embraces football agents. And let's say the closest example to France is now Italy, with national law regarding sport agents and football agents as a ramification of that. All right. So in 2018, 2019, the Italian government decided to reform, and they brought back the requirement of an exam, a two-tier exam, actually, because we have the Italian Olympic Committee, which is our big watchdog, if you like, on sport agents. And you have to qualify at the Olympic Committee level first. So you have to pass an exam at that level first in order to sort of specialize in a given sport. For football, once you have your, say, CONI license, the Olympic Committee license, you'll have to pass another exam to become a FIGC, Italian Association, Football Association agent. Complexities about this exam, quite a lot. It's an exam, as it is right now, primarily designed for lawyers, because it's about rules. Just to make a few examples, you need a good grasp of administrative law, public law. You need a good grasp of sport regulation and, football statutes in Italy. You need some knowledge of private law. So what if you are a former player? To be polite, you have quite of a problem.
Andrea, I think I would be struggling. I mean, we have an exam we did have an exam. I passed it in 2002, and it was a multiple choice. It was difficult, but yours sounds really, really tough. Really,
I can tell you the first rates in our experience. If I remember correctly, if I recall correctly, out of, let's say, 800 candidates in the two layer system, guess how many football agents we had at the end of the process? Well, please guess.
The panelists,
I'm going to say 50.
Put it in the chat, people who are listening. I'm going to say, 800, 75. Anyone else put it in the chat if you want to have a guess?
if we want to have this game, then let's give the result let's put the prize and let's give a result at the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can say Tony and Ryan are far from
it's going to be
the
lower.
answer.
It's going to be lower.
The answer. Yeah, well,
you're giving a few clues out now. We've got 40, we've got 20. Somebody's gone down to 20. It couldn't be 10, could it, Andrea? 10? No, surely not.
Shall I give the answer?
Yeah, come on. Give us it.
8.
8. Oh my God! What?
1%.
1%.
8 nerds.
Jesus.
Made 8 nerds made it. One was Einstein, the other was no. I mean, no, we actually had that type of result, which tells a lot about the complexity.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much?
So basically, good lawyers wishing to become agents.
Yeah.
Rather than former players, former coaches, former, you know.
So it's really a tough regime for agents.
Very tough regime.
Yeah. Okay.
And
that, of course, this regime, of course, has some sort of transitional measure. Not much. It just it draws a line between the pre-2015 liberalization and after.
Yeah.
So, of course, this law preserves and protects those agents that in Italy and elsewhere got a license pre-2015, because pre-2015, as you know, we had national licenses system.
Yeah.
So your exam, dear Tony, would be fine for you.
I'm glad
to register in the. Yeah.
So I might register now, because the other thing is, I suppose it's all in Italian as well. So unless you've got a grasp of Italian, you've got no chance anyway. You know.
The exam, you mean?
This one,
yeah. Then
all in Italian.
It's designed for. A lateral comment I can make: this system brought about a sort of national protection.
Yes, yeah. Which
we nationalized.
It's
as opposed to the liberalization. We not only we pushed for more qualification, which is anyhow a global trend, a global push, a global boost in the next few years, but we did more than this. In practice, we nationalized.
Yeah.
If you want to make, if you know how it works in Russia, or it used to work in Russia until recently, if you want to make business in Russia, you have to be with a Russian agent. Yeah. If you want to do in Italy, the system is such that basically right now it's much easier to do business in our country if you are connected with an Italian, which is I anticipated a little bit what I wanted to convey at the end of my presentation. But please, if you have preliminary questions now, because then I will sort of further my description on a regime for foreigners.
So Andrea, we did doing business in France, and you're dead right. There is a lot of similarities to the French system, and the French are really making it almost impossible if you're not a French national to work as an agent in France now. It's slightly, obviously there's some differences there. So we've got a lot of agents who are not from Italy on this webinar today. How are they going to go about doing business in Italy, under this sort of regime? It's almost impossible to get a license, I take it. What's your suggestion how the best way forward is?
Well, short answer to you, there will always be a solution. That is the good part of it. There are complexities around how to register in Italy, because essentially we'll have parallel regimes applicable on a case-by-case basis, depending on the requirements and qualifications an individual agent has. So we will have a sort of an easy way for the pre-2015 agents, which will always be able to register in our country.
And how much would it be for them guys? I mean, for me, as a pre-2015 agent, how much would it cost? And do I need insurance, all those sort of things?
Yeah, I mean, the requirements are in that regard. The requirements are pretty much the same. You need to have a secondary level education. You need to show and demonstrate secondary level education, a sort of the equivalent to the impeccable reputation. So no adverse sentences, no sports sanctions, and so on. An insurance for professional risk, which will need to be entered into with an insurance company based in the EU.
Not England.
No, which might be a problem for companies. But in that regard, I shall clarify that we always require insurance for the individual primarily, because essentially our regulation is designed for individuals. We don't see, which is another complexity. We don't see companies as the main actor or player here, which is a problem. It goes against what the reality is. Agencies are normally structured around companies, but we see agents as individuals first, which may or may not organize their activity in a entrepreneurial company system. So, and the requirements to register a company have or pose some challenges, which I will detail in a second. So to come back on individual requirements, a qualification pre-2015, or the exam in Italy, or an equivalent qualification. And by equivalent, we mean French qualification only.
Oh, wow.
Having that qualification, you will be able to register as an established agent, and in 3 years' time, you will be able to be recognized as a full Italian agent if you're able to show a certain number of mandates and so on and so forth.
It's very complex.
Yeah. Exactly. Other than the 2015 pre-2015 license, the Italian exam or the French qualification, in a nutshell, you will only be able to register in Italy by way of domiciliation, which is the equivalent to the Convention de Présentation in France. So it's basically, it involved, domiciliation in Italy involves a degree of cooperation between a foreign agent and an Italian agent, set out in a contract, in a collaboration/domiciliation contract, which you need to file with the Italian Federation and CONI, the Olympic Committee, whereby you basically borrow a license from someone else, right? And you're using that license to conclude your mandates in Italy. What does it mean in economic terms? That you have to pay that domiciling agents. Is there a requirement, a specific, let's say, provision on that? No, but you do have to pay. It cannot be a sort of free, a collaboration for free.
Okay.
But the advantage of that is that the foreign agent will always be entitled to receive the full commission and will have to pay back to the service provider, let's say the domiciliation provider.
Yeah. Okay.
So by way of domiciliation, sorry guys, by way of domiciliation, there will always be a solution for foreign agents. That's the good message for carry on business in Italy.
So, you know, with the Pogba deal from Juventus to Manchester United, how did Mino evolve that situation?
Well, that was the example, to my knowledge, of the best sort of use of the liberalization system and no conflict of interest rule.
Yeah, okay.
Because you, let's say that the common feeling and understanding about that deal was that the same agent was able to cover, let's say, releasing club, engaging club, and player. Well done, I must say. So, but in the future, I mean, at the moment we have a liberalized conflict of interest rule whereby you just need to declare and get the consent of all the parties to be able to represent more than one. But again, that is an area of the regulation which will need reform once FIFA reform will take place, I guess.
Okay.
So, long story short, are foreign agents barred from working in Italy? No. Are they incentivized? Yes, as a matter of fact. Is their life easy? No. What do they need? They need to know the rules. Otherwise, someone that is able to explain the rules. They need a good lawyer. They need a good ally in the agent field. And if lawyer and ally are in the same house, is much better.
Yeah.
They need to move and they need to take action without putting the regulatory requirements as the last thing to do, because it's lawyers, because we don't need that. We will call them at the right time. Let me do the transaction first. That's the biggest mistake you can do in this country. You need to have people on board as early as you think of a deal. Yeah. As you think of a necessity or a specific need for your client, because the form will become substance immediately and may or may not shift the balance of a deal, of a commission, of an agreement or a specific arrangement with a club or a player. That's the bottom line, if I may. Yeah. Of course, I could spend much more time on requirements. I'm one thing now that is popping up on companies, right? The requirements are for a company to be recognized and have a passport in Italy. In a nutshell, the requirement is that the company must be controlled, and by control we mean 51% at least by an individual agent. That agent or a qualified agent shall also be the CEO or the individual having legal representation of the company. That you should not have cross shareholdings with companies, with agencies competing with the company you want to register. How do I do that? I am a big group in England, a multi-jurisdiction group. How do I ensure that? But at the moment, the idea is that you shall register a company having as an object dealings in Italy only, which brings, of course, another layer of complexity. So for a company to be registered or domiciled or recognized in Italy, again, it's another area where you need proper advice in time.
Yeah, fantastic. Andrea, that was absolutely perfect. That was very detailed. I've got some questions to ask you a little bit later on. There's some questions that have come through to me personally on here as well that we're going to ask you very shortly as well. So, but what we'll do now is we'll move on to Pier Francesco. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
How are you?
I'm fine, all good.
Yeah, well, all good. Thank you so much for joining us. And I've got to say, first of all, just congratulations on a magnificent season for Spezia. Can you just tell us a little bit, for those of people on the call, just the magnitude, really, the gravity of how fantastic you guys have done this season?
Thank you very much. I think that we really did a miracle, if I can use this word on earth, but it was a true miracle. And we all are very happy because we had all the lowest financial parameters in Serie A. No one beat on us at the beginning of the season. We were the first to go to be relegated at the end of the season, and so the satisfaction now is very, very big, and all of us are happy. It's a shame that we could not have party together because due to COVID, because we all were mad after this important result. And so
fantastic.
Thank you very much for your compliments.
No, you're absolutely welcome. And I've been checking out the club, and Tony and Pier Francesco, the ground's right close to the sea, isn't it? You've got all the boats there. It's definitely on my my sort of hit list to get to at some point. Maybe next season. Now, we've just had some great detail from Andrea in terms of, you know, the macro landscape of Italian football, but we always like to get someone from a club on as well, because we're really interested in terms of what the legalities and requirements are internally at a club. And I want to ask you sort of specifically on what the situation is with non-EU players and also image rights as well. So can you take us through what the situation is with the non-EU players? What's allowed, what isn't allowed?
Yes. Please, first of all, Andrea's contribution was very wide and satisfactory, I think. Working in Italy for agents or brokers is a little bit complicated, but it's not impossible. So I think that everyone can work and can do a good job, but doing it knowing regulations. And as you told first, I'm the managing director of Spezia Calcio. And first of all, please accept my apologizes for my English. That's very poor, and so
it's absolutely fine. Don't worry.
I kindly ask you to stop me and ask me if something is not very clear. Okay. So I really also apologize if I'll say goodbye at the end, but at 12 I have an important meeting. These days are very, very busy for us. Just yesterday we had a change of our sport director, and so a lot of situations are being defined at the moment. So I'm very sorry to leave this meeting, but it's important for me. So I've been working in the Italian professional football industry for about 20 years. Before the season at Spezia, I served Inter Milan as first team sports secretary for 4 seasons. In this role, I was able to get deep my knowledge of Italian football and international football regulation at the highest level. Me and Andrea worked for several transfer, and so our friendship grew up also after this work together. And during my work, I also had the opportunity to know what it means for a foreign ownership to come to Italy and invest in Italian football. I've been hired by Inter in July 2016, a few days after the closing of the deal for the acquisition of the club by Suning Group on behalf of Zhang family. In those years, the investment of Chinese business in Europe and European football were very important. So much so that even AC Milan a few months later was bought by China's ownership, although they used the financial support of Elliott Fund. Yeah. So, in my opinion, unlike the other investors, the Chinese have the government mission to acquire important market shares in various branches of trade and business in Europe and especially in Italy. And football was the vehicle to gain immediate credibility in the markets. This project immediately highlighted some problems, especially of financial nature, so much so that the Chinese government had to issue a series of measures and laws to limit the use of funds from their central bank in certain activities, including entertainment and football. So that was one of the sectors in which they do not invest.
Yeah, and Pier Francesco, that made a lot of people in England very nervous. Manchester United were owed a lot of money from Inter Milan for Lukaku.
Yeah.
There's one or two other similar deals. Do you see that situation sort of resolved a little bit in terms of the Chinese commitment to funds, or is it ongoing?
In Italy, in that moment, the news are that Inter Milan is working for getting an equity for about 200 millions and more to close his dues, their dues and their debts, and paying salaries to football players and managers.
Francesco, while we've got you on the subject, I was absolutely shocked of the news with Conte yesterday.
Yeah, I think that all
you win the league, and then you leave. What's going? Can you explain a little bit? I know we don't talk out of school, but do you know what's come about?
I was in Inter last season in 1920, and just at the end of the season, Conte want to be sacked off by the club, want to be fired, but because he is a winner, he want to be at the top level in each moment of his life and his career. Yeah. And so I think that his relationship, his feeling with the club maybe broke during this last season. And so they all thought that was better for everyone to close the contract. And I think that Conte is a winner, but is very, very difficult to manage, because he wants to be at the top in each moment and ask the best player in Europe, and the best player are very expensive. So
we know.
I think that for Inter in that moment it is not easy to agree with this coach, and so most probably they will change. I don't know which trainer will go to Inter Milan.
But he's leaving on a high, a massive high. You know, it's a big win for Inter.
Maybe that Conte should be hired by Real Madrid too. It's not,
maybe.
Maybe.
But Pier Francesco, getting back to the non-EU players, then what is allowed, what is not allowed?
So the problem in Italy is that there are a lot of regulations, okay, for registering players, especially for Serie A. Among all the situation of the regulations, the registration of football players who are not European citizens from abroad is certainly the one concerning. And so the regulation in Italy are contained in two big parts. One are the rules of federation called NOIF, and the other in annual seasonal statements that come out specifically every season. Among these statements is also the one regarding the non-EU players, EU players. Okay, the one valid for the season 21-22 has not yet been released by Italian Federation. I think it should be out in the next few days, but should not be substantially different from the recent years. In Italy, only Serie A teams can register not European players. Okay, not only Serie A, and there are a lot of provisions regarding this this way of registration.
So no non-EU players in Serie B.
No, but non-UE players should be hired by Serie B clubs or Serie C only if they have been registered in the past season by other clubs in Serie A. Okay.
Okay. Or they get relegated.
Yeah. No, they cannot. For example, Spezia has 2 or 3 not European players in that season, and they can go to other teams in Italy without any problem for them. And this is the main regulation. Serie A, there are 3 ways for registering players. The one is that the Serie A clubs that at the end of the season, on 30th of June, have more than 2 not EU players permanently registered with them, may register a maximum of 2 non-European professional players coming from abroad. But there are 3 conditions to register that players. The first one is that you can replace a non-European citizen with another not European citizen already registered for the club, but he moves abroad, signing a professional contract with the foreign club, or whose contracts will expire on 30th of June, or have acquired for whatever reason the citizenship of a European country from 31st of January to June 21. Okay, is it clear? It's very complicated, but
Francesco, is it easy to become, if you're a non-EU player, to become an Italian citizen? Is that easy or not?
In Italy, it's very, very complicated to get European Italian citizenship, and so the European status. Normally, the clubs knows that the country where it's more easy is Portugal and Belgium. The time is very short, maybe 3-5 years at least. And so in Italy, you can be registered, you can be resident in Italy for 10 years. Okay, yes, it's very, very complicated.
Whole of your career.
Yeah. The second one condition is replace another non-European players without any obligation, for free. But at the time of the application for registration, the players has been called up with inclusion in match list for at least 2 official matches for his own national team in his categories in the 12 months prior to the date of application of registration, or he played for 5 official matches for his own national team in his career. So it's to protect the quality of the level of the clubs.
And Francesco, does it matter if, you know, like in England, we look at the top 50 FIFA ranked clubs. Does it matter the ranking of the country in Italy? As long as it's a national team, it doesn't matter the ranking, the FIFA ranking, or does it?
No. It's only important that the player has played the 2 official matches, also on the bench. It's not it's not mandatory to be in field, but he should be in the match list. And or if he couldn't play, for example, if he was injured, he played 5 matches for his own national team in his career. And it's not important the team type of the national team. You can, if you are an under 21 player, you can have also played in your under 21 team. It's not important the team.
So that's quite an open, compared to what we have in our country. That's quite an open category of qualifying to go into Serie A. Then that's good news, I think.
Yeah. So, but if you are a club that at the date on 30 June have not registered any non-European player, for example, a Serie B team that come on Serie A, or you have only 1 player registered permanently, you may register without any obligation to replace another of your players up to a maximum of 3 players from said countries as first described.
Okay, great.
And then the last situation, the last option, if you are a Serie A club that on 30th of June have 2 non-European players, you can substitute one with another player, okay? And the second one has the same condition of participation to a national matches of his national team, the same, okay? So normally each team in Serie A changes, gets 2 non-EU players for years, except teams from Serie B, sorry.
Okay.
In Italy, Swiss players are equal to EU nationals.
Okay.
And we are sorry, but players with a British passport are EU player starting from 1st of January.
Yeah,
Okay.
we know. What about the image rights, Francesco? What's the situation with the image rights? It's we had Mark Haitley on one of our webinars, and Mark got a move from Portsmouth, which was the 2nd division, to AC Milan, a fantastic move in the 80s, mid 80s, wasn't it? And he got, I think, 5 times the salary he was earning in England. And then he said, on image rights, I made about the same as well again. So he really did cash in on his big move to AC Milan. So tell us what the image rights situation is in 2021.
Okay. There is no specific regulation in Italian football rules regarding image rights. Normally a club in Italy can ask you to negotiate part of the player's wage in the form of image rights. Okay, so you have to imagine that the salary should be composed by 2 parts: the fixed salary and the bonuses, and the third one is the image rights.
And what sort of percentage, Francesco? What sort of percentage are we looking at? For
I
for
think
the basic, for the bonus, for the image rights.
Normally, but consider that image rights are used especially from big clubs, top clubs.
Yeah.
Okay, for example, in Spezia we don't use any image right contract, but we cannot exclude to do it for the new regulation according to the registration of players. I think about 10% of the salary.
Okay.
About.
Yeah.
In Inter, normally we used to buy image rights as 10% of the salary, of the fixed salary agreed with the player.
Okay.
So the salary is 90% and image right 10%. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's very important to know that you can do a contract of image rights on plain paper, white paper, but in Italian, because this is the first language you have to use to register the contract. And so if you agree to buy image rights to a player, if the player directly sells his image rights, the contract must be registered together with the contract on league and on federation. Okay. But for example, if a player has sold his image rights to a company and the company find a deal with the club, this contract should not be registered to Italian federation. Okay, it's important. This is a very important difference. In Italy, unlike the English form, where there is a field for image rights, in Italy, FA forms do not provide for the club and the player to agree an image right. And as you know, the Italian federation forms are mandatory to close a deal with the player. Therefore, it's an...
Sorry, Andrea. Sorry, Francesco. I was just going to ask about so payments to agents. How good are Italian clubs at paying agents their commission once the deal's been done?
Tricky question for that's really a below the belt.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's excellent at Spezia.
The agents on this call will be thinking, hey, how are we going to get paid at the end of the day, you know? So how good do you think they are, Francesco? Sorry for the question.
No, it's not a normal question. And if I'm here, I think I have to answer to your questions. So as Andrea knows, normally the image rights is normally considered as salary. So the percentage or the wage defined for agent is calculated on the 100%, also image right amount. Okay, is true.
And Pierre, what about the current trends to pay commissions to agents rather than image rights or salaries to the players? Especially the audience that is attending this webinar, they may wonder, what is the current trend? Are payments to agents being deferred, cancelled? Are clubs, even in Serie A top level, trying to avoid payments? And another, sometimes I shake when I must certain questions. What if my player has a bad performance? Will they pay me? Because we have somehow, Francesco, created clubs as professionals, this reputation for Italy being a place where if your player is good, no problem with your commission. If the player is bad, poor performance, we try to move him. You should waive your right or your claim to any commission payment, which I think is legally wrong, unethical, and I haven't seen much in practice in first or second division. I'm not going to, of course, speculate on lower divisions, which struggle with so many problems that, agents are just a drop in the ocean. But what is your view about, commissions paid to agents? Are we trying to are we trying to cheat? Is Italy a place which is not stable enough?
I can speak only
about your
on behalf of Spezia, not other clubs. So we, as you know, we paid everything just with 1 month later than the deadline. So we had no big problems with the agents, and we try to respect any deadlines. And this is our ethic. This is our behavior to be a stronger club, to be credible. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that the regulations do not protect agents in Italy, I think.
Correct. This is a very important point. There is no sanction attached.
No.
I think that would be part of the new bargaining table. Cap, possibly yes. Against what? Against protection.
Yeah.
Legal protection, dispute resolution forum, an accelerated forum, perhaps, because now the risk is to take so much time to get a favorable judgment or decision about the payment that it almost makes no sense sometimes to invest on lawyers. So
they pay more on lawyers.
They pay more on lawyers than on commission itself, which is ridiculous.
It seems a real sort of strange situation to me, and it'd be interesting to get you both views. There's such heavy regulation on becoming an agent. So on one hand, we really want to have excellent agents, but actually we're not going to protect them getting paid. That seems like a crazy situation.
Yeah, good point.
I see that under the chapter of what the new models for management will be. Why? I think it seems to deviate from the discussion, but here we speculate, we debate about Super League, about how to increase revenues, how to make football sustainable, Pier Francesco, right? You attend the league meetings, you know what I'm talking about. Private equity deals versus Super League. What about the big ones? What about the small ones? there is another way to see the whole system as and the exercise as primarily addressed at reducing costs, and costs at the moment are salaries and agent commissions.
Yeah, yeah.
So whilst our regulation, to go towards your direction, Ryan, whilst our regulation implements a better qualification requirement, which is to be welcomed, it appears to be designed primarily at protecting clubs' costs.
Yeah, yeah.
So it offers, Pierfrancesco, sorry to say that, it offers too many regulatory loopholes and excuses for clubs to be able to object to payments, without also implementing in parallel a protection system. On that, I fully, let's say, give credit to Pierfrancesco's honesty in in portraying things the right way.
While we've got Pierfrancesco on for the last 5 minutes, because I know he's got an important meeting to go to. Pierfrancesco, your club's done fantastically well. How are you looking at this summer? Because you've got to repeat the feat of staying in Serie A. It's going to be, every team knows how you play now. They've got used to you. They've had 2 games against you. What's the plan for summer? What's the transfer plan for summer?
This is the new challenge for us. Our goal is to be confirmed as a stable Serie A team, like Sassuolo, like Chievo, that stayed also more than 20
Juventus.
years in Serie
Colors are pretty much the same.
Yeah, the colors are the same.
Colors are the same, but we have no strips.
And are the players knocking on your door saying, "Hey, listen, we've kept you in the Serie A. What about a pay rise then?" Great. Or the agents knocking on the door, I should say.
No. I think we will do. We are trying to do a different work, like usual Italian work. The new ownership put a new culture, new mentality. Okay, and they want to split the roles, the function of a sport director into different persons. Okay, so they see the sport director not as a single person, but as a collegial team, a team. Okay,
interesting.
So, yes, very interesting and very innovative, but also very dangerous, because no one did it in Italy. So we all are curious to know what should be the consequence of this work. And so we have to format our mind. We have to know exactly what the ownership and their consultants want, and try to work at the best for them, for staying Spezia in Serie A for a long time. And we have some models to follow, but no one team that are in Serie A are like the model that our ownership should imagine. Okay, and so we will ever have the ethic to respect the work of everybody, from agents to players to trainers. And I think if you start with these ideas, you are in the right way to do a good work. But we don't know how it will finish.
And do you think there's going to be money there to spend? Do you spend on transfer fees down there?
Yeah, I think that I don't know exactly the sum, but I think that they will spend much money to strengthen the team, to grow up the players that are now in the roster.
Yeah, and Pierfrancesco, you've got an American ownership, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you finding
multi-club ownership?
Multi-club. How are you finding that dynamic?
They are completely different from Chinese. They are more rational.
Yeah.
I have my destiny, my life brought me to have a relationship with the two different foreign ownership, in Inter with Chinese and now with Americans.
Yeah.
I think that I feel fine with them. It's much
straightforward, perhaps clear.
Yeah, they are similar of the like European mentality, okay? And Chinese are very different. They are at the beginning very they don't have the right behavior. They are diffident with the person, so it's very difficult to work with them.
Yeah. I think for the Chinese, it's a bit about soft power as well, isn't it? It's about I am an organization, but it's part of the larger political aim of China. Well, I think with the Americans, they're just doing it off their own back, aren't they?
It's about business.
Yes, Chinese are like military. Okay, they put their culture in their work. It's not a critic. It's only my opinion. I think they are very right to follow their steps. Americans are more organized. They believe in organizational charts. They believe in persons. And it's much important for us because every one of us is different from the other. So everyone can give a different support to the project. And so we should be evaluate for our work and not only for our job description.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Pier Francesco, we're going to let you go because we don't want you to be late for your meeting. We have to say grazie mille for all your help this morning. Absolutely fantastic, and good luck for next season.
Thank you very much.
I'm at a wedding next year in Tuscany, so I'm gonna deviate and come and see you on the way.
Sounds as a good plan.
I will wait for you, and we will be happy to have as a guest you in Spezia, everywhere you want. So I'm very proud to be here today, and thank you very much for this guest.
Thank you for your contribution. Grazie. Thank you.
You're very welcome. See you guys. Thank you very much.
See you later. A bit before we finish, Andrea. Thank you. There's a few questions for you, Andrea, from the audience. So Elliot asks, have or can clubs use a combination of the flat tax rate and the decreto Crezia, I hope I pronounced that right, to get a transfer?
Listen, it's two different animals. The Decreto Crescita is primarily applicable by clubs / employers. So they would retain a greater amount of budget, which would in theory otherwise to be allocated to Italian tax authorities. And they would retain that because they would apply the regime.
Yeah. Okay.
The flat tax is designed for individuals. So it would be the Cristiano Ronaldo of the likes to evaluate and assess whether it makes sense for him or for her, based on the global revenues, to take stable residence in Italy and to have Italy as the global one-stop shop for your tax declarations.
It's Andrea, it's a good way of attracting the big stars,
Definitely.
The big stars, like we talked about doing business in France. Monaco have an advantage over other French clubs with their tax regime, but it seems like Italy, I mean, I'd love to have to pay 100,000 euros tax.
Again,
that's a nice problem to have, isn't it?
Again, yes, provided you are properly advised in time and you get organized, which leads me to give the answer I owe Roberto at the beginning of this webinar. What is the situation in Italy with commissions being paid by the club rather than by the client himself or herself.
Yeah.
Well, here we used to have a clear interpretation of the rule with an assumption of, if I'm not wrong, 15% allocation to or 15 presumption, let's say, of the commission paid by the club as a commission in fact paid by the player for the services rendered by the agent. Now, that presumption, whatever
in kind,
exactly, like whatever the regime was is over, and now we are again in a jungle situation where the risk is much higher for an arrangement whereby whatever is due by the player to his agent is paid and taken on by the club. Yeah. Because there will be always a risk of a review and scrutiny by Italian tax authorities, which would then go after either the club or the player because of the sort of lack of relationship, formal relationship between player and agent. So our two-penny worth suggestion is always to construe this type of, especially in a new deal, you do have normally a commission for the services rendered by the agent for the intermediation of the deal, the conclusion of the contract, the registration of the contract, and the transfer in itself. But then you should still maintain some sort of, mainstream relationship between the agent and his own player, especially where, there is spread public knowledge that that agent is associated with that player because of social media and common knowledge, rumors or whatever. So again, proper legal advice in order to avoid future headaches. And before my time constraint kicks in, because the rental time for these beautiful paintings behind me is about to expire, I wanted to give another final takeaway points for our audience. First, on the image right, the message is image rights fall outside our contract. There is no section 13, if I recall correctly, of the FA standard model, standard form for contract of players. But we do have clubs which, the moment you finish negotiation on employment conditions, they would, as a matter of business model, engage in discussion and negotiation about a certain split of the image rights on the player. It's quite common knowledge that Napoli, the most sort of entertainment-driven club in our league, wishes to negotiate the exploitation of image rights of the players registered with Napoli. So again, move on time, be aware of what the market is and the trends go, because you may be in a position to have everything done on the player side in terms of employment condition, transfer, and so on. But then you get stuck on the image right point if your player is someone with a value. First concluding remark. Second concluding remark is on invoicing. Very practical. Because of the difficulties with companies' registration, you may think, okay, I register somehow, someone will tell me how to register as an individual. Then the deal is done and we get to the most, juicy part, which is receiving a payment. I will call my accountant of my old company agency and say, please prepare an invoice. An invoice will come from the company to the club for the services rendered by the individual agent. With an IBAN and all the banking all the payment instructions related to the company. That is another mistake. That if invoice is not going to be paid, because here clubs pay individuals unless you register also your company, subject to the conditions to be fulfilled. Okay, so since our experience with that particular issue is unfortunately quite extensive,
yeah,
my humble suggestion is don't underestimate also the admin following a transfer where you act on behalf of your player.
okay. I just want you to clarify just that point on commissions, because Carol just asked the question: does the player have to pay tax on the agent's commission in Italy? So here in the UK, it's treated as a benefit in kind. So the player would still pay some personal tax on a percentage of what the agent has been paid, or just in Italy, does that just depend on which tax system they're on?
The player will pay whatever commission is agreed to his agent, and whether he will pay taxes on it or VAT, let's say, rather than taxes, will primarily depend on where the service will be provided and where the location of the agent will be.
Okay, fantastic, excellent. Tony,
but again, I'm a sport lawyer. Tax lawyers are to be, I mean, our strong suggestion is always to get a team rather than a single professional involved, because the devil, especially with taxes, is really in the detail.
Absolutely. Tony, I think personally, I've got more questions than answers after the last 90 minutes. I have. I'm glad I've got that invite to west coast of Italy, though. I'm gonna have to manipulate the plans around that wedding next year to get into that. Tony, a few remarks from yourself, really, in terms of what we've heard.
Yeah, I mean, we have to thank Andrea ever so much. I mean, that was absolutely fantastic, Andrea. Thank you very much for that. A lot of detail there. I'm scared of the admin and the paperwork already. It does my head in England, the admin and the paperwork. It was great to hear from Per Francesco as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've had a really good 90 minutes look at the Italian market, and hopefully, I mean, I think we could do another one quite easily, a part 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously then I'll try and get an invite to Italy as well, Ryan.
Yeah, no, you're not invited.
I think Milan will welcome you. It's not as fancy as Spezia on the sea, but
I love Milan.
We have some decent lakes around.
You know what? One thing I'd really, if you've just got a couple of minutes, that hotel system where the agents go into the hotel at the end of deadline day, I might come along to that. That's, you know, how does that work?
Let's say it come out as a business practice rather than a proper, you know, regulatory need. It makes everything easier in terms of, you know, especially those, you know, couple of days before the end of the market, because everyone gathered there.
It's crazy, going crazy, but everyone gathers in one place.
My humble expectation and hope is to be in a position not to go there and rather conduct my business somewhere else in a more discreet and professional way, because it's always, you know, let's say that the privacy of business and conversation is not extremely you know, the rule of thumb of that kind of gatherings. So, but you are indeed in a fancy place where you know, you can have drinks and food with you know, with your business partner. So it's not that bad too.
Before we let people go, I just want to remind people of the other events that we've got coming up. The next Doing Business is a bit more familiar ground, Tony. It's Doing Business in England. Of course, what we'll be looking at in detail here is our governing body endorsement system, the new point system required for non-UK players to come into the country, which is of course changing the dynamic of recruitment and scouting here. And then we also have another event in the diary, which is in July, where we'll be gathering some of our previous guests from all the Doing Business series in. We're gonna have a Eurovision feel to that event, where we're going to try and gauge the temperature, Tony, by mid-July of how the transfer window is going right throughout Europe. So we're going to have people from Italy, from England, from Spain, from France, from Portugal, from Germany. It's going to be good.
We haven't asked Andrea yet, but I'm going to ask him live on air so he can't back out. We want you back. We definitely want you back, Andrea. Please come back for this one. But we'll talk off air. But thanks, guys. Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Thank you again, Andrea. That was excellent. Really appreciate your time. And thanks everybody for tuning in as well. And have a good weekend.
Okay, bye for now.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.